And now we are live. Welcome, Dr. Bernardo, and we have a guest here, special guest, Larry Zaccaris. Zaccaris or Zaccarisi?
It depends on which part of Italy you're talking about, Brad.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Uh, so, so I'll let you do, Larry, a little bit of an introduction. We often have leaders from education here, although we've had leaders from military here as well. And we love having a diverse group of leaders coming from all aspects of life. And I'll let you talk about your background. We talked offline a little bit. We synced up and I think had some synergy just right out of the gate. But we want to get into your leadership style, what leadership means to you, especially contextually with what's gone on with COVID and how our world has been changed upside down in response to that. Rich, welcome. Larry, quick introduction, and we'll get right into the, I'm sure, a wonderful conversation.
So thanks for having me, both of you. My name is Larry Zaccaris. I'm the interim chief of police and assistant vice president for campus safety at Stony Brook University, where I also happen to be on the faculty for the last 6 or 7 years in the School of Professional Development, the graduate school. I teach crisis management in higher education and legal issues in higher education. But I'm in my 28th year of public sector emergency service as a law enforcement executive, paramedic. I'm an attorney, consultant. I do a couple of different things. So looking forward to speaking with you guys.
Yeah, and if anybody missed that diverse background that you had, you're in a pretty unique breed to be able to serve on multiple levels. It's a pretty cool thing, and I think unique experience for sure. I've met a lot of folks in my life, and that's a pretty unique experience. So kudos to you on that. So Larry, just let's get into a little bit of this, especially at the university level. We've seen this. COVID has affected the world in general, and the adjustments we've had to make, I don't think anybody could have foreseen. You see some short-term things that you knew we had to handle right away, but the way it's evolved and manifested and has been prolonged, right? It's really made us look at leadership in a very different way. So what are some of those different approaches or ways you look at things from a university perspective, from a chief of police perspective? And just so everybody knows this too, chief of police, I hate to say this because some people think university, it's different police than it's police. Police are police, no matter where you go, right? So just to get that sort of stereotype or negative, positive, whatever it is, connotation out there, police are police, and it doesn't matter what area you're in, Brooklyn, Queens, Suffolk, Stony Brook University, it's all police. So let me just get that out of the way as well. So what are your thoughts on that piece, and how have you sort of adapted and adjusted?
Yeah, I thanks for that intro and that good segue. So I mean, I've been in this interim role since August, but I've been here in this department since 2009. Initially coming as the director of emergency management, and in a brand new role post Virginia Tech in 2007. So, my role in higher ed as an emergency manager and as someone who was initially focused on that, but being in the police department is very unique. It's certainly unique throughout the SUNY system for sure. And as you mentioned, we are a fully accredited New York State, law enforcement agency. We have 285 people in this department. We do everything from buses and parking enforcement and law enforcement and detectives and everything else in between. So emergency management was my main focus when I came, and I arrived in 2009 just as the last pandemic we had when we had H1N1. So many of the plans that we had in place and a lot of the infrastructure that we building a very robust emergency management program was what we dusted the plans off, as they say, and prepared for COVID, but very quickly realized that not just from the disease entity itself, and also from the fact that there's no vaccine, there wasn't at the time, and was a much different approach, but very quickly realized that we were dealing with something that was going to be almost unlike anything we've seen, certainly in 100 years. It's a 100-year pandemic. And the university was thrust really into the forefront as a university that has a normal population of 50,000 people, and an academic medical center, and the county's um, you know um, level 1 trauma center, and a forefront from the healthcare sector as well.
Are are you seeing, just curious on this too, like as far as adjustments go, there were so many cuts in higher education. Are you seeing that with such an essential area? Are you seeing that too? I'm just curious.
So we're sort of preparing for what we don't really know. The New York State budget and the county budget, everyone's budget. The COVID woes are sort of like the specter that's hanging over every day. We've seen some cuts over the last several years. We don't know what the actual numbers will be. We know that there will definitely be cuts, but luckily so far we've been able to maintain, from a personnel perspective and just from an everyday operating budgetary perspective, we're okay. But we know that once the state budget is finalized, there's definitely going to be cuts for sure.
And Larry, if you could explain, like it seems like you wear so many hats. And we've had Dr. Gateau on here too, which you probably deal with a lot. And he is similar in that he wears so many different hats like you do. So how would you describe like your leadership style and how you sort of handle so, and listen, if you're a leader, you're handling multiple things at once, but I think you're in a unique position that you wear multiple hats just in the one role you're in. Like what strategies can you use, or what do you sort of subscribe to on a daily basis to say, this is my go-to, this is what I need to do in order to survive as a leader, but also work with my team?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, to me, the number one quality is credibility, and being able to be believed and be trusted. And I think for me, my very background, my wife jokes around and says, it's 11 years in a pandemic it took to really be, the hub and the big wheel and the spokes that are around it. But I joked around, and Rick and I are great friends and colleagues. And on one of the first podcasts that we did, we talked about, I joked around and quipped that I've been preparing my whole life for this. And in reality, I have been, because everything that I've done, my formal education, my professional training, and all of the networks and connections in the various fields, they all came to bear. And I was able to really leverage those internally here at the university, at the town level, at the county level, at the state level, and at the federal level. My former colleagues from the NYPD, my colleagues in the fire and emergency medical service world, I mean, having those relationships 100% positioned us to be as successful as we were. And we're one of the very few SUNY schools that opened and stayed open, when many people said it couldn't be done. But we just last Friday, we did it. We got to the end of the semester, and very proud to have done that.
That's awesome. Rich, I want to let you chime in a sec. There's someone said to me once that there's a saying, jack of all trades, master of none, right? And I, like you, really don't say no to any opportunities, and have, as we explained, a pretty diverse background, different than yours, but I've done, you name it, I've done it, I've tried it. And my thought on the jack of all trades, master of none is exactly what seems like it happened to you, and it's happened to me in many instances as well. While you may not master everything, you can still master multiple things, number one. And the biggest thing that comes out of that, and as far as leadership for me that has come out of it, is that you get this, you can do things on a granular level, on a micro level, but you could also see really well at a macro level how things intertwine and interrelate, and how people are, and the relationships. So I think that's a huge benefit to having your hands in so many different areas, right?
Yeah, it's so accurate. And it's funny because people say, "Oh, yeah, he's a cop. What does he know about public health, or what does he know?" And yeah, that's true. And I know I could talk a lot about that. I could talk a lot about public health. I could talk about healthcare. I could talk about education. I can talk about how all those things come together. And this really, from a we went from response to the initial welcoming students back from study abroad programs, and setting up isolation and quarantine space, and then decanting our campus, and getting our essential workers back to campus, but everyone else home, and then winding down the semester, and then academic planning. And I mean, it's just such an evolving situation. And I was able to pull, the nuggets of experience from all different places to bring it in. And, people refer to me as the COVID Oz, not my expression, somebody else's, but
Yeah.
that's really what it was like a conductor of an orchestra for the last, 9 months.
Great analogy.
Rich.
Great metaphor analogy, whichever the right word is. Yeah, well, I tell you, I can go about 15 different directions to throw my fingers across. Al knows when I cross my fingers, I'm trying to remember different things I want to say. But the last thing that Alan, you just brought up, I'm going to work with the last first for a second and say, yeah, jack of all trades. Okay. And lots of different experiences. There's content of leadership, of anything for that. There's content like, public health, policing and so forth. That's the content of that. But the skills and the themes of leadership that cut across all of those. And so you have many muscles that that you kick into when you need to kick into them. The first thing I wrote down when you started this talk a few minutes ago was the situational leadership. I'm not a theorist, but I have a habit of going back to theories when we first start these podcasts. Situational, and you just said it a minute ago too, for that matter. The situational leadership may have kick-started you in this particular situation, and that's not strong enough of a word, I think, to use. But what you did then was you plugged into that array of skills that you had that, oh, by the way, happened to cut across or deeper into different content areas. So you integrated a lot of things, and you may not have said, oh, hey, I'm integrating, but that's exactly what you were doing. And it speaks well for you for the nimbleness of what you had to pull into place. Something else I want for you comment. I'm fairly new to Stony Brook as an adjunct, 3 or 4 years now, I guess. And a habit of all the different places I've been an adjunct, I have a habit of not reading a lot of the emails that come from the administration. I haven't got the patience for a lot of them. But I do read the emails that come out about how the university, Stony Brook University, is handling, again, a terrible verb, the crisis. And I have to tell you that, not having met you before 20 minutes ago, I was really impressed with the depth and what you just said, and the breadth as these things cut across and intersect with each other, of how the university, led by you, and I'm sure in tandem with some other folks who assist you, or listen to you, have integrated a whole, with a W, whole scale approach, so that there aren't too many things that seem to have gotten, or maybe nothing that I'm aware of at least, has gotten past you. Now, the word I'm going to use, and Al's going to laugh when I use the word, I can even let Al tell you what the word's going to be in a second, is a word I use a lot is futuring. It's a noun, it's a verb, it's a gerund, whatever you want to do with it. But it's really about foresight and about having the capacity to plan for things. My own personal opinion is that school systems, K-12 world, has a checkered record in terms of its capacity to deal with the current crisis. Too many stories to tell in a podcast. And then again, I've heard some good stories too. But it sounds to me as though, as you said before, you created the infrastructure, you dusted off the infrastructure. Maybe you want to comment on that. And then you reworked those strategies to drop into Plan B, to keep the people at Stony Brook, the students and the staff, safe. So it's not really a question; it's a statement.
Yeah, no.
Take it any way you want.
So Larry, let me phrase that in the question, all right? And I think you probably could do it either way. But one of my favorite movies is Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man. And in Spider-Man, there's a scene where he first starts getting his abilities, and someone throws a punch at him, and everything kind of slows down, and he immediately knows how to back away because everything slows down, and he's able to see what's in front of him, like sort of internally slowing things down. So how do you as a leader slow things down for yourself and for all those around you in what is really a panic, or could be a panic, with, they're worried about themselves, they're worried about their families, they're worried about their student that's at another college, whatever it is, at work. how do you slow things down? And like Rich is saying, make sure that you're futuring and not just worried about the moment, but what's coming down the pike. How do you do that as a leader?
You know, the most important word out of the whole previous statement is nimble, and we relied on it early on. So let me just back up. The only reason we're successful is because of what I said originally is credibility, and I had credibility under our former interim president, Michael Bernstein, and with our current president, Dr. Maureen McInnes, who realized that this was not an academic exercise. This was not just an emergency. This was a global exercise where the 50,000 foot level was just as important as the micro level. And they needed someone that could insert into various things. You know, on average, and you can tell by my background, I probably work 80 to 90 hours a week. I have since I'm 13 years old. I'm just driven, and I love what I do. I'm very much engaged, and I take my job very serious, maybe almost too serious but in the pandemic, there's no such thing as too serious. So being able to do that and leading from the front, which is definitely my leadership style, and being empathetic and being able to understand and listen, knowing when it's time to take the lead, knowing when it's time to let back on the reins a little bit and to direct groups. Like again, that hub and spoke model. If you looked at my calendar for the last 8 months, I mean, every committee, we had, you know, a return to research group, a return to work group, health and safety group, a PPE planning group, all of these, and I would be on every single meeting, even if it was for 20 or 30 minutes to pop in, where my day began at 7 a.m. and didn't end sometimes till 7, 8 o'clock at night. But that's what it took. And that's how every other group was empowered to be able to do the finite work that they needed to do. And I can just kind of mold and shape and be the glue that held it all together. A lot of late night phone calls, a lot of stress, and a lot of just letting people cry on the shoulder, literally and figuratively. And that's what it took. And I haven't had a day off since Valentine's Day. Next Monday is my first day off planned because we made it through the semester. But I wouldn't change it for a thing. I wouldn't change anything that we did. We got a lot of luck, a lot of hard work, and a lot of sweat equity went into it. But man, we had some real smart people around a lot of tables. And we, to Richard's point, I won't say anything about K to 12, but I have 4 kids, 2 very older kids. I have a daughter who's a freshman in St. Anthony's, has been in school 5 days a week. And I have a 12-year-old middle schooler who's not in school 5 days a week. And there's a vast difference there.
Got that right. Yeah. I have a new term. We're going to write a paper about the 3 of us. All right. Anthony, Al knows I always say this too. There's always a paper or research, something we could write together.
There's a dissertation to that.
There's a dissertation, and here it is. And here's the word: situational empowerment.
Yeah. And I loved the credibility, the trust leads to that situational empowerment. And I really loved what you said, a lot of what you said, but in particular that last piece, because it seems like you really do focus on that trust piece, that credibility. People are not going to cry on your shoulder if they don't feel comfortable enough to cry on your shoulder, right? So that just speaks to who you are as a person and as a leader, for sure. So Rick, we could stay on with you all day, Larry, but it looks like it's getting pretty late there for you. We would love, we don't ask every guest this, but we would love to have you on again. Really great conversation. So if you're willing and able in the next couple months, please do that. Rich, I'll give you a couple of closing thoughts, and then Larry, I'll give you the final word. But from my perspective, I couldn't have, I didn't expect this. We didn't really know each other. I'm sure we crossed paths at some point, but I really did enjoy the conversation, enjoy getting to know you. That's why we enjoy doing these things, because every once in a while we meet somebody that's like, that's pretty cool what you're doing. You're a pretty cool guy as far as how you approach leadership. So thank you for sharing and being on the show. Rich, some closing thoughts, and then we'll let Larry have the last word here.
Yeah, well, the title of our podcast and what we do is Leadership Redefined, and Al and I and our colleague are about the business of redefining what leadership is about, and in the business of training leaders more specifically in the higher ed and K-12 world. But it's rare to find someone like you, very rare, he smiled, to find someone like you who exemplifies it, uh, what we think leadership should be about. And that's why I appreciate what you shared with us, and admire your energy and your obvious devotion to doing the right thing by the people whom you serve. And I really do think that in and among all those careers you have and have had, and the things that you're doing right now, there are many nuggets within that we should probably somehow codify and send out to people, because we could show this podcast to a principal leadership training team tomorrow, and they would be a whole heck of a lot of things they could learn from someone like you.
Well, I just first like to say thank you both for having me on. I will absolutely come back as often as you'll have me. That's one. Two, I would love to collaborate with you if you on anything you do, from a research perspective to a white paper to beyond. Happy to do that. And I will say this, in the midst of all this, the traditional leadership of a president at a major research university during a pandemic, we also had traditional leadership in my department where my former boss retired. And we had some, cultural differences and cultural changes happening. And I'm just going to give you a little example of just one tiny thing I did. And it has paid dividends more than I ever could have expected. In the week prior to taking over in my role, I had my admin go through the department directory and get every single person's birthday and put their birthday on my calendar. And every morning when I come in, and like I said, there's almost 300 people in the various divisions, from bus drivers to public safety officers, dispatchers, and admins, and in between. And I see whose birthday it is, and I just send them a quick email that just says, just want to say happy birthday. Hope it's the greatest one ever. And I can't tell you how much people appreciate that. And it shows you that your most valuable resource is your human resource. If you take care of your people, they take care of you. And I can tell you that the survey I had sent out on my first day and where we were then and where we will be when the next one goes out in 3 months, it's like a completely different department. So I'll just leave with that. Take care of your people. They'll take care of you. Be empathetic. Be a shoulder to cry on when it's needed. And don't be afraid to make decisions, even if they're wrong. No decision is decision unto itself.
Sounds like a formula for success in leadership and also in life. So
another bumper sticker there. Oh, we have a couple of them.
Exactly. We have a few. We're going to go back on this, and we'll patent a few or trademark a few bumper stickers for sure. Thank you so much, Larry, for your time. Rich, as always, a pleasure. We'll be talking soon, and share away. Larry, share this as often as you'd like, and folks out there, share. And if you want to be a guest, just connect with us, info@Leadership Redefined. .education, and we will get you on, and we'll send you a quick invite. All right. Thank you so much.
Great holiday. Be safe.
You too, guys. Thank you very much.
Take care.